Well, hello and welcome to our weekly podcast, Envision, here with Chris Robertshaw. We are always trying to do something in advance and then something else turns up and we change our minds. Well, you change your mind. It's your show. We want to talk about tourism. What a big subject that's going to be like.
Well, I wanted to talk about concerns about DEFRA and Claire Barber's posturing, but that'll have to wait. I want to talk about my card and some of the actions of Treasury, but that'll have to wait. Why? Because of the past week in Tynwald and what was said about tourism out of complete and utter ignorance.
You talk about when they said Everest sold out or something to that effect, wasn't it? Some sort of weird statement was made.
Well, it started because of a motion brought forward by Laurie Hooper saying, let's have, I think he called it a biosphere tax.
Okay. We're calling it tourist tax.
Then of all people, the Minister of Department for Enterprise stood up and said, no, here's an amendment. This is my understanding anyway. Here's an amendment and we should call it a visitor tax and associate it with hotel rooms occupied. It was extraordinary that it should come from the Department for Enterprise.
Because they're trying to encourage...
Well, their job is to monitor and to be fully aware and engaged with the sector. And yet something like this comes across. Anyway, of all things, the only person who voted against it was Rob Collister. Nobody else. Everybody, like sheep, just let's go ahead with this.
Voting for a tax of some description.
No. What they were voting for was an examination of it. But what's crucial in all of this was shocking, really, is that the Minister for Department of Enterprise interjected, as I recall anyway, when Rob Collister was speaking, saying, this isn't. What is this? This isn't right. And tried to dismiss Rob Collister on the basis that no. All the hotels are full for the summer. That is so shockingly inaccurate. Anyway, it transpires that he has apologised to hoteliers, but now he needs to apologise when he gets back, and I'll be following this. He really needs to make a statement to Tynwald when Tynwald reassembles in the autumn, because he thoroughly misled Tynwald.
Was it an off-the-bat comment? I didn't see it. I've read about the story, but did he just sort of come out with this sort of factual
I don't think
or non-factual statement?
You mean him wholly misleading Tynwald?
Well, careful how you put that one.
As a minister, he shouldn't be issuing off-the-cuff remarks if that's what it is or was. And if it was a written response or a written support for him putting this amendment forward, saying we know we need to look at a room tax, then both of them were equally misguided and misinformed. So, he's apologised to the hoteliers. He needs to apologise in the autumn to Tynwald and explain himself, because as a consequence of this, now I should preempt what I'm saying here by making a point to those who don't know me. I was involved with the tourism sector for 50 years, and 35 of those were actually as a hotelier. And for a long time, way back in the latter part of the last century and just into this one, I was a spokesman for tourism. And once I left the sector, I sort of felt it wasn't my part to remain engaged. It was up to others. But as a consequence of this ridiculous conduct on the part of the Minister for Enterprise in Tynwald last week, I became alarmed that there was something fundamentally wrong. I wasn't fully aware of how bad it really proved to be, because I then did a deep dive into what on earth's behind this. Why would the Minister for Enterprise say that in the first place? If he was saying it off the cuff, what on earth does he think he's doing as a minister? Because the vote subsequently, I presume influenced by what he was saying, almost unanimously, with the exception of Rob Collister, encouraged the minister to go forward with this further. If it wasn't an off-the-cuff remark, and it was written and advised by his officers, then who the hell is telling him a complete untruth?
This is the minister who said in his manifesto he was not going to have any part to do with this government. He wanted one term to settle in. Is that not what he said originally? And then in case first chance of being a minister, he takes it. That's how it looks to me.
Well,
and others, I think.
Let me just say,
can't resist taking a job like that. Eh?
Let me just say that I think he's lived up to his promise, because he certainly is not a minister for tourism, and he's not engaged with them at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said that. Now,
I think he has. Today's, I think I read somewhere he's sort of backtracked on that strange thing to say in the first place thing. So maybe it's a backpedaling going on now.
The damage is done now, because Tynwald has backed the amendment to look at it.
Can I say, a couple of weeks ago I went to the Welbeck for Sunday lunch, and I was talking to Miss George, the lady, and it was a private conversation, but it was just fascinating to hear someone in the hotel business and the struggles that are going on. And we had, by the way, great place for Sunday lunch. I have to give them a plug. It was the most fantastic place, but they weren't exactly sold out, and they need people in there all the time, don't they? Because this is the summer. This is tourism time now, in the old-fashioned way of putting it into a summer-only thing. But clearly, the promenade was empty when I walked along it.
The Minister for Enterprise was ignorant and wrong for saying what he said. There's no doubt about that. First of all, and I'm going to bore you just for a couple of seconds on a bit of detail, you don't measure a success of a hotel by its occupancy, nor do you measure it by the average achieved room rate. You measure its success by what's called its revenue per available room. In other words, you can have high occupancy and still be losing money because your rates are wrong. You can have a high average achieved room rate but have low occupancy. Revenue per available room means that you know what each room is earning you each day against your cost base. So that's really boring. But clearly the minister hasn't got a clue about any of that. Nobody's advised him to that effect. Also, what was strange, once I started drilling down, was there seemed to be, on the feedback I was getting, a difference of opinion between Sarah Maltby, who I understand is supposed to be the member of that department with delegated powers or interest in the tourist sector. She seemed to be saying different things to him. Neither of them, I'm now satisfied, understand tourism, and I would suggest with respect to Sarah Maltby, that she goes to talk to her father, because her father was fully involved in tourism for a long time.
Okay, you better explain who the father is.
David Cranley.
Right, just in case people don't know.
Yeah, okay. So
who was Minister of Funds?
She's got a huge amount to learn. She hasn't helped and engaged at all. The whole situation was awful. So what on earth is the visitor agency doing to allow a minister to be so profoundly inaccurate? And what became clear to me once I started making my inquiries, because I thought, I can't leave this, I've just got to do something about it, was that there's a massive disconnect between the visitor agency and the accommodation sector itself. Okay, there are one or two favoured operators, shall we put it that as gently as one can, but clearly...
Hang on, no. Favoured operators mean the government...
Closer to
government system more
favoured. If
they're putting up people,
no
I know, but I'm just trying to read your mind here.
Well, you'll have to,
because there will be companies who won't even speak out because they'll be terrified about doing anything against government because they may lose some business or something. Right? I mean, I've known that for years when the promenade was being done. Big hotels who were absolutely on to me, screaming blue murder, but wouldn't say a dicky bird because they didn't want to upset the powers that be, because they may lose some bookings. That's crazy, but that's the fact of life.
Well, I'll just thank you for reading my mind.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Halfway.
But the massive disconnect between the sector and the agency and the minister, so Tynwald gets completely misled. That's a worry. What on earth's gone wrong with the visitor agency? Because clearly there's no assembly of accurate data as far as the visitor agency is concerned. So
this is Visit Isle of Man we're talking about here.
The visitor.
We've got problems anyway, but
there's yes. There's 4 agencies, but clearly from that one incident in Tynwald, I'm absolutely confident that the agency is not working properly. There's been far too much upbeat, positive comment about what's happening with tourism, but when you drill down to it, the situation is not as those, as it were, in a position of authority are saying it is. So, as I said, Tim needs to apologise.
Back to the potential for tax, so tourist tax. Most countries that seem to do it, it's on a hotel room. It's about the only way that it can be done, I guess. I mean, although I think it's Venice now, they're charging to go into Venice to keep the cruise numbers down, those sort of things. But is that a fair way? I mean, is that even if I stayed at a hotel, would I be paying a tourist tax? I suppose you would be, wouldn't you?
Well, I was in Greece recently, and I paid a room tax. But bear in mind, there's a huge difference between tourist destinations that are trying to, as it were, moderate their tourist arrivals, and the Isle of Man that is in a major shortfall situation. We don't want to be overwhelmed with tourists, but we certainly need to see a lot more than we've got. And there's got to be also this understanding of a fundamental problem in the accommodation sector, and that's the cost of access. For example, there are areas in the UK, like the Lake District, that have more or less a 12-month season, one way or the other, because you get in your car, you drive up the road, and you book your hotel or your self-catering or whatever it is, bed and breakfast. You can't do that in the Isle of Man. It's interrupted by the cost of access. And that influences the RevPAR, the revenue per available room in hotels, because they're compensating all the time for that element to try to avoid the overall cost of the holiday being in excess of that which a visitor might consider is appropriate, fair, or within their reach. So I understood that once the new boat was in place, Manx, which is a fine boat, and it had the extra capacity, that there would be an opportunity, and this brings you on to a second point now that I want to make. I believe that there was a great opportunity to increase the number of visitors using the boat.
You see the prices, have you? I went on it the other week.
As the access.
It's not cheap, is it? Particularly to get over here on the boat. I didn't realise how much it was until I tried booking it, and then I realised, wow.
Well, the steam
incredible.
packet has completely missed the opportunity. Clearly, their managing director, Brian Thompson, does not understand tourism, and in fact, I've been.
Whoa, does not. Come on.
No, I'm telling you, he does not understand tourism, because he wouldn't conduct himself in the way that he has been doing, and I'm now referring to his relationships with hotels over recent years, which has been, I'm telling you now, Paul, deplorable. Deplorable, and I'm perfectly happy.
You can back this up.
Absolutely, I can. Absolutely, I can. And the steam packet have shown absolutely no interest in becoming professional about how to recover visitors. Now, put it this way, in a nutshell. All the airlines in the world operate through what's called, when they're on their booking system, what's called yield management, and it's a technique that everybody uses. Steam packet don't go anywhere near yield management, and if the airlines adopted the same booking processes that the steam packet does, I can tell you now, they'd go bust within a very short period of time.
It's a monopoly for sea travel, isn't it?
Thank you. And
monopolies don't have to work on anything besides making good returns, I'm guessing.
Well,
because they've got no competition.
No, you're right.
By the very nature of it.
You're absolutely right. They've got a monopoly, and they act as if they've got a monopoly.
That's
they have a disdain towards the visitor sector. I can only use these strong words. A disdain for the accommodation sector. And had they by now recognised the fact that they've got this unused occupancy in the Manxman, then we would be in a better position than we currently are. Am I talking about fact? Yes. I asked for the last 3 years take-up rates for foot passengers since 2023. And they're miserable. And you've got all these empty seats in this fine boat just sitting there, not being sold. And Brian Thompson's attitude is, towards the hoteliers is, well, I'm providing the best I can. No, he's not. He needs to be challenged in no uncertain terms, and the Steam Packet Board, who need to recognise they're running a monopoly and have got duties towards the tourism sector and our economy overall. I'll face anybody on this one and challenge anybody, because I'm talking fact here.
I've just got a suggestion.
Yes?
That they go as foot passengers through Liverpool. I was on a midweek thing to go into that £75 million, but people are sitting on the...
75 million, hang on a second.
Okay,
I think it's closer to 100 million.
Okay.
And I think
I'm being polite at the minute because...
And I think it'll end up way north of 100
So
million.
I'm in this shed, very expensive shed. People are having to sit on the floors. Very few places to plug your phones in. Now, I don't know about your age, but these days this is just standard fare. People can find a charging point for their phones. So people are on the floor because there's one plug there with two USB things. And I'm sitting around here just going, wow, this is not how it should be, surely. Not for this sort of welcome to the Isle of Man experience. Secondly, on board the Manannan, I've got these tiny old TVs. I mean, you know, when you were in hotel business and you're going to flat screens, they were that big in those days, weren't they? Because they were expensive. And they're showing Sky News, and I kept thinking, aren't they missing an opportunity here to put advertising of the Isle of Man on it? You know, see the glens, see the whatever. Because you've got to watch this TV for 2.5 hours.
I wouldn't criticise.
Am I going off target here? Sorry.
I wouldn't criticise the staff of Steam Packet, because I think, in broad terms, they do the best job they can.
But I'm saying sit on that.
I'm talking about the leadership of the Steam Packet.
I'm saying sit on that boat, because I sat in the front bit in steerage. On the way over, I went a bit posher, but came back, and again, no USB charging points on the seats. I know it's an old boat now, but these things are just expected these days.
Look here.
Anyway, I wasn't expecting to talk about this today.
In the Pink Book 2023-24, there's an interesting comment here that's made as the Department of Enterprise's priorities. And their very first priority, as stated in the Pink Book that year, is creating content and material to meet the needs of the travel trade, to develop relationships to that effect. Well, that's poor show. Incidentally, I don't know whether you heard on the news recently. No, it wasn't news. It was people complaining on Manor about the state of the footpaths, which is.
There are enough people working on it these days. Yeah.
What was the relationship? What was the priority that the Department for Enterprise had in the year 23-24? Encourage more adventure and wellness tours and short breaks. Drive number of walking visitors up to the Isle of Man. So did the Department for Enterprise forget to talk to DOI about making sure that the pathways are open and clean? I'm sure the answer to that, as we're now all well aware, was no, they didn't. Did DOI do anything about it? No, they've reduced the number of people looking after the footpaths, and yet the overall number of people working for government goes up. So what on earth is going on with our government at the moment? And here's another point about Department for Enterprise, is pretty regularly over the years, and I followed this, they have tended to break even because the Department for Enterprise budget is pretty well covered by the likes of the company registry, which have a significant income each year. What's interesting is in their forecast, when this administration came in, they were forecasting that this would continue. In reality, Department for Enterprise is slipping significantly, and it's now running towards, on the 25-26 expectation of expenditure, is running to a deficit of 4 million. So what we're seeing here, and their staff costs of Department for Enterprise staff costs have shot up. They haven't done what they said they're going to do. They're not engaged with the sector, and so we get this shambles in Tynwald. That's the mess we're in, and it's about time some of these people got a grip, and they need a bucket of cold water thrown over them, because they're just posturing as the Department for Enterprise did in 23-24 and do nothing about it. And I do not think that either the Department for Enterprise, the visitor agency, or the Steam Packet should treat the accommodation sector with such disrespect and disengagement, and things have got to change. Okay.
As always, all those parties are most welcome to come and talk to me. Although I know the Steam Packet
I'll face up to
Steam
any
Packet PR won't talk to me at all, but they have a grant. The Steam Packet PR. You know when they opened the new shed in Liverpool, the media didn't get an invite as far as I could see it, because I asked to go on it. And they sent this again. The Ireland government made their own video of the opening of it, which is like something out of North Korea. Instead of allowing the media to just do it, I know one. You won't mind me saying, June Turner, he just went on the boat to film it. He went on the ship so he could go to Liverpool to see the new place. But hey, that's another story in itself about the Ireland government making videos and doing things that the media should be doing.
Well, let me come back to the point of this particular podcast, Paul, if I may, more specifically.
Yes,
in my inquiries, I understand that a political member of Treasury was also engaged in meeting with accommodation providers when, after that ridiculous statement by the Minister for Enterprise occurred in Tynwald. One of the members at that meeting was a member for Treasury. Now, I challenge that particular member to state categorically that the Treasury is not involved in this ridiculous idea of having ill-advised, ignorant idea of putting a room tax on visitors, because if they are, then they're manifesting an ever-increasing tendency for Treasury to go scratching around, looking for opportunities to increase tax. I mean, what happened to the Treasury Minister when he stood up in, I think it was this week, when he tried to get through a reduction of EPA for self-employed people, and that was shot down. I mean,
I think he withdrew it, didn't he?
He did, well, I think he had to, because it was inappropriate and unfair. But it shows a Treasury scratching around looking for money.
I suppose one way of getting tax out on will be on the ships. Although I'm very wary when they count those people as tourists in the full term, because they go on a coach, go up and see a few things, and then they get back on their ship. But they're counted, aren't they, as tourists? So it's a very dubious thing. But you can tax them because a lot of countries do tax cruise liners now. When they go into their port, they can get a very, very easy tax off them, I suppose, by putting something on the tickets. If they get off, I don't know.
Let's question the accuracy of a lot of this information that's coming out, because one of the things Brian Thompson, I understood, said since that minister made that ridiculous statement, defending the steam packet's position. Well, I think he said we're 5% up this year, as if somehow that was brilliant. Well, let him hear from people like me who've moved from flying backwards and forwards to the UK to go on the ferry, because the historically over the last few years the flights have been so unreliable.
That's why I did it myself, actually, because the flights weren't playing ball, so I went, I'll try the steam packet.
We are that 5%.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
You see what I mean?
Okay.
He needs to. All these people need to start analysing and understanding professionally what they're dealing with, because quite honestly, they're all blundering along in ignorance at the moment, and it really does make me cross.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. Just like you have so many things to say. Can we put your name up again and all your contact details?
Because look, retail's in a state of stress. Yeah. The farming sector has suffered all sorts of difficulties, and now they can't even understand tourism. E-gaming's stressed. Now, people, will you get a grip and get this sorted? But right now, they're blundering along in infamous ignorance, and I am so cross about it. Well, anyway, next week, let's look at.
Do you know what? Let's see what happens, because who knows? Who knows?
What
will happen before we decide next week?
Oh, I see.
Because every time you turn up, we change subject. Anyway, do I need a disclaimer on this? This was his opinions. If you've got your things, you can get in contact. I mean,
I will face anybody on this subject.
Fine.